The conference room buzzed with camera crews adjusting their equipment. Representative Jasmine Crockett walked through the door at exactly 2:47 p.m., her heels clicking against the marble floor. She didn't smile. She didn't wave. She just moved toward her assigned seat at the long table. Across from her, Donald Trump sat with his arms crossed, leaning back in his chair like he owned the building. The moderator shuffled papers nervously. This town hall wasn't supposed to happen. Both sides had agreed to it only 48 hours ago, and now everyone in America was watching. Crockett sat down and placed her phone face down on the table. Trump immediately leaned forward. "Well, well," he said into his microphone, his voice filling the room before the moderator could even start. "They sent you, really?" The moderator tried to intervene. "Mr. Trump, we haven't." Trump waved him off. No, it's fine. I'm just surprised they didn't send someone with more experience. Someone who actually knows how things work." Crockett didn't flinch. She looked directly at him, her expression unchanged. The cameras zoomed in on her face. Twitter exploded with reactions before she'd even opened her mouth. "I'm ready when you are," she said calmly. Trump laughed. "Oh, I'm sure you think you're ready." The moderator finally got control of the room and explained the format. Each person would get 2 minutes to address questions from the audience. No interruptions, no crosstalk. The first question came from a woman in the third row. "Representative Crockett, what's your plan for addressing the national debt?" Crockett began her answer, laying out specific policy proposals. She spoke clearly, citing numbers and timeline projections. 30 seconds into her response, Trump started shaking his head dramatically. "Wrong," he muttered, loud enough for the microphones to catch. "Completely wrong." The moderator raised his hand. "Mr. Trump, please wait your turn." Trump ignored him. "She doesn't understand basic economics. This is what happens when you elect people based on quotas instead of qualifications." The room went silent. Crockett stopped mid-sentence. Every camera in the building pivoted between the two of them. Trump continued. "I mean, let's be honest. Look at her resume. What has she actually accomplished? What deals has she closed? What businesses has she built?" Crockett set down her pen. She looked at Trump with an expression that gave nothing away. "Are you finished?" she asked. Trump spread his hands. "I'm just saying what everyone's thinking." The moderator tried desperately to move to the next question, but the damage was done. Social media erupted. Cable news anchors scrambled to provide commentary. In the room, Crockett picked up her pen and wrote something on her notepad. Trump leaned back, looking satisfied. He'd gotten under her skin, or so he thought. The next question came to him, something about foreign policy. He launched into a familiar speech about his previous negotiations and deals. Crockett waited. She didn't interrupt. She didn't shake her head. She just waited. When Trump finished, the moderator turned to Crockett. "Representative, your response." "I'll wait for my actual turn," she said. "Unlike some people, I can follow simple rules." A few people in the audience chuckled. Trump's jaw tightened. 2 questions later, Crockett got her opportunity. A young man stood up and asked about her vision for the country's future. She stood up from her seat. The moderator looked surprised. No one had stood before, but Crockett commanded the room now. "Let me tell you what I find interesting," she began, her voice steady and strong. "I've been sitting here listening to someone question my qualifications, my intelligence, my right to be in this room." Trump started to interject, but she raised her voice just enough to cut him off. "And you know what? I expected it. Because this is what happens when you threaten power structures that were never designed to include people like me." Crockett didn't sit back down. She stayed standing, and the energy in the room shifted completely. "You want to talk about qualifications? Let's talk about them. You want to discuss experience? Let's discuss it. But here's what we're not going to do. We're not going to pretend that dismissive comments and personal attacks are the same thing as actual policy debate." Trump tried to jump in. "I never said." "You said exactly what you meant to say," Crockett continued, her voice never wavering. "You wanted to make this personal because you can't compete on substance. You wanted to make this about me instead of about the issues, because the issues aren't working in your favor." The audience was completely silent now. Every single person leaned forward in their seats. Crockett pointed to her notepad. "You know what I wrote down when you were talking? I wrote down every single policy position you just mentioned. And you know what I noticed? Not one of them included a concrete plan. Not one of them included actual numbers. Not one of them explained how you'd pay for anything or who would benefit." Trump's face reddened. "That's ridiculous. I had the best." The best what? Crockett shot back. The best insults. The best put-downs. Because that's all I've heard so far. The moderator had given up trying to control the exchange. This was what everyone had tuned in to see. Crockett walked slowly along her side of the table, maintaining eye contact with Trump the entire time. You said I don't understand economics. So let me break something down for you. When you give tax cuts to the wealthiest Americans and corporations, you don't stimulate economic growth for working families. You stimulate stock buybacks and offshore accounts. The numbers prove it. The data proves it. Reality proves it. Trump stood up now too. You're twisting everything. I'm stating facts, Crockett said, which is apparently a foreign concept in this conversation. Someone in the audience gasped. Another person laughed nervously. The tension was unbearable. Crockett continued, you questioned what I've accomplished. Here's what I've accomplished. I've listened to my constituents. I've crafted legislation that addresses their actual needs. I've built coalitions across party lines when it served the people I represent. I've shown up to do the work even when cameras weren't present. Trump scoffed. Please, you've been in office for long enough to recognize a con when I see one, Crockett interrupted. And this, she gestured at Trump. This is the oldest con in the book. Attack someone's credibility when you can't attack their ideas. Question their qualifications when you can't question their solutions. Make it personal when you can't make it practical. Trump had been backed into a corner and he knew it. He did what he always did when cornered. He went lower. You know what your problem is, he said, pointing at Crockett. You're so busy trying to prove you belong here that you forget some people just aren't cut out for this level of leadership. You're a DEI hire who got lucky, and now you're in over your head. The room erupted. Audience members shouted. The moderator slammed his hand on the table. Security guards moved closer to the stage. Crockett stood perfectly still. She didn't look angry. She didn't look hurt. She looked focused. She walked back to her seat and picked up her phone. She tapped the screen a few times, then set it back down. Did you just pull up my resume? Trump mocked. Are you going to read me your participation trophies? Crockett smiled for the first time all afternoon. It wasn't a warm smile. It was the smile of someone who'd just drawn a winning hand. No, she said. I just texted my team to make sure they're recording this. Because what you just said, that's gonna play very differently outside this room than you think it will. Trump laughed, but it sounded forced. Oh, I'm so scared. You should be, Crockett replied. Crockett picked up her water glass and took a slow sip. The entire room waited to see what she'd do next. Here's what just happened, she said, setting the glass down carefully. You revealed exactly who you are. Not that anyone was confused, but you removed all doubt. You showed everyone watching that when faced with a substantive policy discussion, you resort to racism, sexism, and personal attacks. Trump started to protest, but she raised her hand. No, we're done with interruptions. You had your turn. Now I'm taking mine. She addressed the cameras directly, to everyone watching at home. Especially young people. Especially women, especially people of color. What you just witnessed is what it looks like when someone fears you. Not respects you. Not admires you. Fears you. The audience began to murmur in agreement. They fear you because you represent change they can't control. You represent a future they don't recognize. You represent power they never intended to share, and when they fear you, they try to diminish you. They try to make you small. They try to make you doubt yourself. People started nodding. A woman in the front row wiped her eyes. But here's what they don't understand. Crockett continued, her voice rising. Every insult makes us stronger. Every attack clarifies our purpose. Every attempt to push us down reminds us exactly why we're fighting. Crockett turned back to Trump. You called me a DI hire. Let me tell you what I am. I am the daughter of people who worked 3 jobs to give me opportunities. I am the product of teachers who stayed late to tutor students who looked like me. I am the result of mentors who opened doors that were never meant to open for someone like me. Her voice cracked slightly, but she pushed through. I am someone who studied harder, worked longer, and proved myself more times than you've ever had to in your entire life. And I am someone who will continue to do that work, because I represent people who deserve someone fighting for them. Trump tried to speak, but his microphone had been muted by the production crew. He gestured angrily at the moderator. Crockett wasn't done. You want to talk about qualifications? I qualify because I understand what it's like to struggle. I qualify because I've lived in the communities I represent. I qualify because I know that policy isn't about ego or ratings, it's about real people living real lives. The audience started clapping. Slowly at first, then building. So thank you, Crockett said, and now she was speaking directly to Trump even though he couldn't respond. Thank you for reminding everyone why this work matters. Thank you for showing your true character. Thank you for making it crystal clear what we're up against. The applause grew louder. Crockett raised her voice over the growing noise. To everyone who's ever been told they don't belong, you belong. To everyone who's been told they're not qualified, you are. To everyone who's been told to sit down and be quiet, stand up and speak louder. The entire audience rose to their feet. The applause was deafening. Trump sat at his table, his face a mask of fury and disbelief. Crockett continued, practically shouting now to be heard. They will try to break you with words. They will try to defeat you with insults. They will try to erase you with contempt. But you are unbreakable. You are undefeatable. You are unforgettable. People were cheering. Camera operators were nodding. Even some of the security guards were clapping. Every time someone like him tries to tear someone like me down, we rise higher. Every time they tell us we're not enough, we become more. Every time they say we don't deserve our seat at the table, we build a bigger table. The moderator had completely lost control of the event, but he didn't care anymore. He was clapping too. Trump finally got his microphone working again. This is ridiculous. This is a setup. These people are plants. Nobody was listening to him. Every eye was on Crockett. Crockett let the applause continue for another 30 seconds, then she raised her hand for quiet. Slowly, the room settled. I'm going to finish with this, she said, her voice calm again but still powerful. This moment right here? This is bigger than me. This is bigger than him. This is about every person who's ever been underestimated. She looked around the room, making eye contact with people throughout the audience. When they go low, we don't just go high. We pull everyone else up with us. We create ladders for the people behind us. We open doors for the people beside us. We build platforms for the people who haven't found their voice yet. Trump stood up and started gathering his papers. I don't have to listen to this. No, you don't, Crockett agreed. But millions of people are, and they're hearing something you never wanted them to hear, that your insults don't work anymore. Your tactics don't work anymore. Your fear doesn't work anymore. Trump headed for the exit, his team scrambling behind him. Crockett called out, "Thank you for coming. Thank you for showing everyone exactly what we're dealing with. Thank you for making our argument better than I ever could." The audience erupted in laughter and applause. Trump pushed through the door and disappeared. Crockett sat back down at the table. The moderator approached her, unsure what to do next. "Should we continue?" he asked. "Absolutely," Crockett said. "We still have people here with real questions about real issues. Let's get back to work." The audience settled into their seats. A man in the back raised his hand and the moderator called on him. "Representative Crockett, after what just happened, what's your message to young people thinking about entering public service?" Crockett smiled. A genuine smile this time. "My message is simple. They need you. The halls of power need your voice, your perspective, your determination. Yes, you'll face opposition. Yes, you'll face people who try to diminish you. But you'll also find allies, build coalitions, and create change." She paused. "And remember, their insults are just proof that you're doing something right. If you weren't a threat to their comfortable world, they wouldn't bother attacking you. So wear their attacks as a badge of honor and keep pushing forward." The applause started again, but Crockett gestured for quiet. "Let's keep going. We've got work to do." For the next hour she answered questions about healthcare, education, infrastructure, and economic policy. She spoke clearly and specifically. She admitted when she didn't know something. She explained complex ideas in simple terms. Trump's empty chair remained visible in every camera shot. By the time the event ended, the video had already gone viral. The clip of Trump's insult followed immediately by Crockett's response had been shared millions of times. News anchors were analyzing every word. Political commentators were writing think pieces. But more importantly, regular people were sharing their own stories. Teachers posted about being told they weren't smart enough. Entrepreneurs posted about being told their ideas wouldn't work. Students posted about being told they didn't belong in their programs. And under each post, the same message appeared again and again. "They fear us because we're powerful." Crockett's phone buzzed constantly with messages from colleagues, constituents, and complete strangers. She ignored most of them. She had dinner plans with her team, and she wasn't going to cancel just because a video went viral. As she walked out of the building, reporters swarmed her. "Representative Crockett, how does it feel to have stood up to Trump like that?" She stopped and faced the cameras one more time. "I didn't stand up to him. I stood up for everyone who needed to see that it could be done. I stood up for everyone who's been told they're not enough. I stood up because that's the job." What do you think his campaign will say about this? "I don't care what they say," Crockett replied. "I care about what we do next. I care about the policies we pass. I care about the people we help. The rest is just noise." She walked to her car, got in, and drove away. The story would dominate news cycles for days. Political strategists would debate its impact on upcoming elections. Social scientists would analyze its cultural significance. But in that moment, driving through evening traffic, Jasmine Crockett was just thinking about dinner and wondering if she'd remembered to water her plants before leaving home that morning. She had turned an insult into applause not through some calculated strategy or rehearsed speech. She had done it by being exactly who she was, prepared, principled, and unafraid. And that, more than anything else, was what made Trump's attack backfire so completely. Sometimes the most powerful response to hatred isn't matching its intensity, it's refusing to be diminished by it. That was the lesson millions of people learned that day. And it was a lesson they wouldn't forget. By 8 p.m., every major network had led with the story. CNN played the full exchange on loop. Fox News brought in panels of commentators who couldn't agree on anything except that the moment had been explosive. MSNBC interviewed political analysts, who called it a turning point. Crockett sat in her apartment, eating takeout with her chief of staff, Maria, who kept refreshing her phone. "You're trending above everything," Maria said. "Sports, entertainment, everything. People can't stop talking about this." Crockett swallowed a bite of food. "They'll move on to something else tomorrow." "I don't think so," Maria replied. "This feels different. Look at these comments." She showed Crockett her phone. Hundreds of thousands of people were sharing their own experiences with being underestimated or insulted in professional settings. Teachers, doctors, lawyers, engineers. People from every profession were posting about times they'd been dismissed and how they'd overcome it. A high school student in Ohio wrote, "I'm the only black girl in my AP classes, and today someone told me I only got in because of diversity requirements. I watched Rep. Crockett's response 5 times. I'm not quitting." A small business owner in Arizona posted, "When I applied for my first loan, the banker literally laughed at me. Took me 3 years to prove him wrong. Rep. Crockett reminded me why I kept going." An immigrant software engineer in California shared, "They told me my accent made me sound unprofessional. Today I'm leading a team of 20 people. We all deserve to be here." Crockett set down her fork. "Show me more." Maria scrolled through dozens of posts. Each one told a similar story. Someone had been told they didn't belong, didn't deserve their position, weren't qualified, and each one ended with determination to keep pushing forward. "This is what matters," Crockett said quietly. "Not the applause." 3 days later, Crockett was back in her district office meeting with constituents. An elderly woman came in to discuss healthcare costs. A young father needed help navigating VA benefits. A group of teachers wanted to talk about school funding. None of them mentioned the viral video. They wanted actual help with actual problems. This was the work Crockett cared about. The cameras weren't here. The reporters had moved on to other stories. But these people still needed someone fighting for them. Between meetings, Maria showed her the numbers. Campaign donations had surged. Volunteer sign-ups had tripled. Speaking invitations were pouring in from across the country. "You could build something major off this moment," Maria said. "National profile, bigger platform, real influence." Crockett nodded. "We can use that, but not for me. For the work." She explained her thinking. The attention wouldn't last forever. Viral moments never did. But they could use this window to push legislation that actually mattered. They could elevate issues that normally got ignored. They could bring attention to communities that media usually overlooked. "Every interview I do, we talk about policy," Crockett said. "Every speech I give, we focus on solutions. We don't make this about me versus him. We make this about what we're trying to build." Maria smiled. "You know, most people would milk this for everything it's worth." "I'm not most people," Crockett replied. "And that's exactly what I told him." The next constituent walked in. A teenager worried about college costs. Crockett spent 30 minutes explaining financial aid options and writing down resources. No cameras captured it. No reporters wrote about it. But it mattered just as much as any viral video. Maybe more. Weeks passed, the video remained popular, resurfacing whenever someone needed an example of responding to attacks with substance. It got played at leadership conferences. It got shown in college classrooms. It got shared by parents trying to teach their kids about standing up for themselves. Crockett introduced 3 new bills. She built coalitions with unlikely allies. She continued doing the unglamorous work of actual governance. Trump kept attacking her on social media, but each attack seemed more desperate than the last. His supporters shared them, her supporters shared her policy accomplishments. The contrast couldn't have been clearer. One evening, a reporter asked Crockett if she'd planned her response during the town hall, or if it had been spontaneous. "I'd been preparing my whole life," she said. "Every time someone told me I didn't belong, I was preparing. Every time someone questioned my qualifications, I was preparing. Every time someone tried to make me feel small, I was preparing." She paused. "So when that moment came, I was ready. Not because I rehearsed a speech, because I knew exactly who I was and what I stood for. That's something no insult can take away." The reporter scribbled notes. "What would you say to people facing similar attacks?" Crockett looked directly into the camera. "I'd say your presence is resistance. Your success is revolution. Your refusal to be diminished is power. They insult you because they fear what you represent. So represent it loudly. Represent it proudly. Represent it unapologetically." The interview ended. Crockett went back to work. Because that's what she'd always done. And that's what she'd always do. The applause had been thunderous. But the work was eternal. And she was just getting started.